Mornings on my property had a rhythm. Coffee, dogs, the distant hum of the highway. I was a small-town contractor now, but people still nodded when they saw my old uniform tucked in the closet. 30 years in service left marks that civvies couldn't rub off. My safe sat behind 2 locks in the workshop, everything registered and legally owned. I never advertised it. I kept to myself. So when 2 unmarked SUVs rolled slowly up my drive and men in uniforms jumped out, my heart thudded. They wore dark shirts with patches and tactical vests. One marched to the front door with a clipboard like he owned the place. The other fanned out, scanning the yard. They announced themselves with faux gravitas, HOA enforcement, immediate seizure for illegal weapon storage. I opened the door, calm on the outside, fury under the skin. Something about the way they moved, the wrong tone in their voices, told me these were not real officers. I asked politely for credentials. You don't escalate unless you have to. That's what kept you alive in the old days. The taller man flashed a badge that glinted oddly, the emblem vague. He read from a stack of printed orders stamped with an HOA logo I'd never seen. He used words like confiscation and public safety as if repetition could conjure authority. I stepped back into the kitchen and dialed a number before they could interrupt. The sheriff's non-emergency line. They flinched. Their leader said, "No need. We have authority." His voice tried for official and only managed a tremor. My thumb hovered over another number and my gaze never left the fake badge. My training told me to control the scene, to buy time and gather evidence. So I did the opposite of a confrontation. I recorded. My phone was on the counter, camera rolling. I invited them to sign a consent form to search. The man barked that consent wasn't necessary. The HOA could issue emergency orders. He gestured to paperwork, but the county seal was absent. I asked him to repeat the name of the issuing magistrate. He hemmed and hawed. The audio cut in crisp. We're empowered by community safety directives. Neighbors gathered at the fence, peering through trees. One of my oldest friends, a volunteer patrol officer, had the sense to pull in the driveway. He nodded at me, "Call the chief." I spoke into my phone, carefully public and audible. "Sheriff's office, this is a private residence requesting verification of enforcement officers." The impostor's jaw tightened. It was becoming a game of who could prove themselves first. By the time the sheriff's dispatcher asked for my address, the impostor had decided to turn coercion into theater. He insisted the safe be opened for the safety of the community. He threatened to seize items pending county inspection. I kept my voice steady. "You need a warrant, or I can offer you a written consent. Otherwise, you're trespassing." He barked orders to do it now. I refused. The dogs were behind me, ears raised, the air electric. This was not about safety. It was intimidation. My fingers dialed the sheriff's chief. I gave the badge numbers I'd seen, the license plate scraping the mud, the clipped accents that didn't match any local department. I requested immediate verification. Meanwhile, I gave them a choice: remain on my porch and wait for lawful officers, or leave before I treat them as trespassers. The leader spat a final insult. "You'll regret this." I closed the door behind me and locked it. The men paced. Their bravado was paper-thin. Night came, and the impostors retreated to their vehicles, arguing under breath. I sat on the porch with a thermos and my dog, replaying the scene in my mind. Part of me wanted to haul them by the collar and drag them before a judge. Part of me remembered orders and rules. You expose fakes with patience and procedure. I emailed copies of the recordings to the chief and the county clerk and printed a stack for the records. This wound would be papered shut by the book. At dawn, local patrol cars rolled up. The sheriff's lieutenant stepped out in uniform and scanned the drive. The impostors' SUVs were still there, but now they were outnumbered by real authority. The lieutenant listened to my recording, read the badge number, shook his head. "Impersonation's a serious charge," he said simply. The faux officers were told to stand by. The posture of menace drained from their shoulders. They'd misjudged this town, and me. Under the watchful eyes of the sheriff and with my evidence laid out, the tallest impostor folded. He admitted they had been hired by a private contractor working with an overzealous HOA enforcement group. a group that had taken community safety to mean instant confiscation without proper authority. He stammered apologies, but his partner was less cooperative. Both were handcuffed for impersonation and unlawful entry. The contractors who hired them would be investigated for conspiracy. The neighborhood breathed a little easier. Word spread fast. Karen, the HOA president, called an emergency meeting at the clubhouse the next day. She painted herself as the victim, claiming rogue elements had been misunderstood and insisting the HOA acted only in residents' best interests. Some neighbors were shaken. Others knew better. I let the sheriff's deputy present the facts: the arrests, the recordings, the false paperwork. The room's temperature shifted from breathless gossip to stunned silence. Karen tried to pivot, but the audio evidence cut across her defenses like a blade. I didn't stop with the arrests. I met my lawyer, walked him through the recordings, the threats, and the list of HOA bylaws they'd used as pretext. We drafted a civil complaint, attempted seizure, emotional distress, conspiracy, and a request for injunctive relief preventing the HOA from hiring private enforcers. My counsel also advised a criminal referral for impersonation and unlawful entry. The lawyer's calm reinforced my conviction. You beat bullies with law, not bullets. A local reporter picked up the story, a headline about fake cops in the cul-de-sac. Overnight, journalists showed up with cameras and questions. Karen tried the sympathy card, but the recordings played on repeat online and her words began to feel thin. Comments poured in, dozens of residents sending messages about other incidents. The HOA's email inbox bulged with complaints. Social pressure can be as decisive as a court order. The community that had once feared Karen's wrath now watched her every move. The judge scheduled a hearing on the HOA's authority and the contractor's role. In the packed courtroom, testimony was sharp and public. The faux officer's contractor admitted hiring security personnel, but insisted he'd believed them licensed. The prosecution disagreed. My lawyer presented the recordings and documents showing the HOA's collaboration with the contractor. The judge issued emergency protections. The HOA could no longer contract enforcement, and any future seizure required verified legal process. That ruling bought the community time and reinforced the rule of law. After the hearing, the HOA attempted reforms, new bylaws, board elections, promises of transparency. Some neighbors were skeptical. Others were relieved. I organized a community forum on legal rights and property protections, not to gloat, but to educate. A few homeowners who'd once cowered under fear now asked how to protect themselves from overreach. My old training came in handy as I explained how to verify credentials, insist on warrants, and document interactions. Empowerment spread faster than intimidation ever had. Karen's influence crumbled. Investigations revealed she'd signed contracts without board approval and pushed for private enforcers to act on her interpretations of policy. At a special HOA meeting, she was removed and the board voted to dissolve certain enforcement programs. The contractor faced fines and a ban from county operations. The faux officers were convicted of impersonation and given sentences reflecting their premeditation. Justice, slow and methodical, finished what panic had started. Months later, I walked the property at dusk, the dogs at my heels. The safe remained where it always had been, the locks intact, the law on my side. Neighbors waved across the fence with a new confidence. The clubhouse was humming with real oversight committees focused on transparency, not power. I kept my old uniform folded away and my phone always ready. Not for a fight, but for the next time someone needed the law to work the way it should. When people asked how I stayed calm, I told them truthfully, experience teaches you that systems can protect the peaceful if you respect them and insist they be followed. I didn't unleash military protocol so much as I insisted the rule of law do its work. In the end, that was enough.